So we've talked a whole lot about Ryan Walters. He's the superintendent out in Oklahoma who is one of the most extreme right-wing nut jobs that there is, and he's constantly trying to push the most radical agenda that he can on students. At the end of the day, I really believe he's doing this to try to work his way more into the mainstream. And I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, these kind of stories probably would have just went over my head and I wouldn't have spent too much time circling back to them. But the reason that I do and the reason why that I think we should understand this is where they're coming from and this is where they're going is because we have seen this radical style of ideology now make its way into the mainstream. We have a president who embraces this type of bullshit. And so I think we really need to desperately keep our eye on the ball. And I do realize they're flooding the zone and people says, Brando, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know, what I'm supposed to react to or say next or do next. And I totally understand it. There are so many stories happening so fast that I'll tell y'all a funny story. If you go back and watch the episode that I did with Gloria Johnson, where I had her on my podcast, she's sitting there talking about the mother here in Tennessee who was denied care, because the doctor disagreed with her lifestyle. She wasn't married. So the doctor was like, well, you're not married. Even though that the woman had been with the same dude for 15 years, she still said, well, you're not married, so I don't want to give you any care. And Gloria's sitting there telling me that story, and I'm listening to her talk about it. And as she's talking about it, it starts coming back to me that, yeah, I covered that on the channel. Yeah, we talked about that here. That was some bullshit. But there's so many stories happening so fast that you really can't keep up with them all. And so I felt like an idiot there. I was like, damn it. I was like, here she was telling me that, and I was nodding along because here's the thing. This stuff is happening so much and so fast that at first I wasn't sure if she was talking about the same story. That's how crazy this stuff is. And so to me, it is worth talking about, and it is crazy whenever Ryan Walters opens his mouth to talk and now proposes an America First test for teachers that are from New York and California. I'm going to read this here from the New York Times, just a little bit of it for you. Oklahoma will require teachers coming from New York and California to pass a test to combat what it calls woke indoctrination before being hired, according to the state's public school superintendent. So woke indoctrination, they have to test you out and make sure you're not going to be doing that. Meanwhile, they're going to indoctrinate your children to believe in the religion they believe in, and they're going to read straight from the Trump Bible as they do it. And they don't see the hypocrisy in that. They don't see the glaring hypocrisy that the rest of us sees. And some people may sit back and listen to that story and go, that's good, man. Glad they ain't going to be bringing California and New York to Oklahoma. But instead, they're bringing an ancient form, like an ancient religion, with a bunch of modern day spins on it that is complete bullshit. They're okay with that, though. But its America First test is designed to filter out teachers with views contrary to Oklahoma values, said Ryan Walters. It is meant to ensure that educators promote American exceptionalism and help protect against what he called radical gender ideology. And that's really what a lot of this all goes back to, is their bigotry and their hatred of the gay and trans community. They don't want a teacher to ever even reference those things. But the idea that teachers are just sitting there teaching this is absolute bullshit. It's not happening. But they will sit there and they will push it as though it's happening to get everybody in Oklahoma scared, so they'll get behind this, not realizing that by getting behind this, they're actually going against the very Constitution, and a lot of them don't care. But here he says, if you come to Oklahoma, you will abide by our state law. You will abide by our standards and teach those in the classroom. In other words, you'll do what I tell you. You'll teach my interpretation of an ancient book that's been edited and re-edited more times than any book in history, and I'm going to put my own hateful, bigoted spin on it. And don't tell the kids anything. Don't educate them on anything new going on in the world. Just keep them all living in the dark, because heaven forbid they ever become woke on anything. That's what is just so frustrating to me about the Ryan Walters types of the world. And I know I get repetitive whenever I do a video on him, but his interpretation of a religious text should not dictate what's taught in schools. That stuff should be left there, figured out at home. Teach it in your Sunday school class if that's what you want to do. But when you come to school, you should just learn the basics, and that should be that. But critics of Oklahoma's decision argues that the test was more of a means to garner attention from the president and his supporters than to actually affect real change. Historically, only a handful of teachers each year move there from New York, California. And that's a great point. I mean, it's not like that. I don't think people are just rushing to Oklahoma. I don't think teachers are just pouring in there. This is one of those situations more than anything. He's trying to get attention. He's trying to do a pick me kind of thing. Hey, look over here. I exist. And there may be some that says, well, Brando, the more you talk about it, the more popular he's going to become. But this is the type of person that all he has to do is just praise Trump a little bit harder, get a little bit more attention, and the next thing you know, he'll have a position and he'll be pushing this, not just in Oklahoma, but all around the country. One person here, Randy Weingarten, who's the president of the America Foundation of Teachers, said this. He said his priority should be educating students. But instead, it's getting Donald Trump and other MAGA politicians to notice him. Now, the test may face legal hurdles. In the last 14 months, Mr. Walters has ordered all public schools in the state to teach the Bible and proposed rules that would require schools to collect the citizenship data of students. The State Board of Education has proposed lessons on discrepancies in the 2020 U.S. presidential election, and Oklahoma also hoped to open the country's first religious charter school until its plan was halted by the Supreme Court in May. And so this isn't just happening in Oklahoma, by the way. Down in Texas, they're trying their damnedest to get the Ten Commandments in every classroom, and a judge just recently ruled that it couldn't be posted in every district. I think it was like Houston and Dallas maybe, that they were saying it couldn't be done. This is the part, though, that when we come to the end of all this, this is where I always circle back to. The people who are pushing so hard for religion to be in schools are the people who wants to control everybody else. They're also the people who backs a man and backs politicians that in no way, shape, or form embraces the Ten Commandments or embraces, more importantly, the teachings of Jesus Christ. They left that in the dustbin of history. See, they'll sit there and they'll put the Ten Commandments up, and all it is to them is a stage prop. They'll put that up there. Donald Trump's pretty much broke every one of them in the book, but they don't care. They don't give a shit if he's broke half of them. They don't give two shits about that. It's a power grab. It's them saying, look at us. It's them flexing. They back politicians that in no way represent a Christian lifestyle at all. It's just used as a stage prop. But when you notice, they always want to go back. They want to put Old Testament stuff up on the wall. You never would get them to put Matthew chapter 25. I wonder if Ryan Walters would be okay, since he says the Bible's all about history and that it's all a part of American history and should be taught as such. Then let's just put Matthew chapter 25 up there in big bold print, that you're supposed to feed the hungry, and you're supposed to give the thirsty something to drink, and you're supposed to clothe the naked, and you're supposed to visit those that are sick, and you're supposed to welcome in the stranger. Yeah, why don't we put those words up on the wall? I'm not for putting any of them up on the wall because that goes against the Constitution and religious text shouldn't be there. But if you're going to, why are you picking out the Ten Commandments out of the Old Testament? I'll tell you why. They want to stay in the Old Testament. That's as far as they want to go with it. They don't want to tell you about Jesus. They don't want to tell you the things that Jesus said. You know, out of all, only thing that they'll ever quote Jesus saying is when Jesus said, "I didn't come to bring peace but a sword." That's what Pete Hegseth looked at. He looked at everything that Jesus said about helping people and doing unto others as you have them do unto you. He looked past every bit of that, and he picked out the one about, well, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword, which I've always thought was a very out of character verse for Jesus. And the book's been re-edited so many times and things have been took out and misplaced that I could so see that one just being wedged in there by some asshole, because it definitely doesn't go with all the other teachings that he talks about helping people. And you'll never see Ryan Walters want to put that on the wall. You see, Ryan Walters doesn't understand that Jesus himself was woke. And he doesn't understand that he's the very kind of person that nailed Jesus to the cross. And if Jesus came back today, a Middle Eastern dude, how is that going for the Middle Eastern guy that's running for mayor in New York? How's it working out for him when he's talking about treating people good, when he's talking about helping people, when he's talking about a living wage, when he's talking about all the issues that matters? What's Ryan Walters got to say about that guy? Whatever it is exactly what he would say about Jesus Christ if he came back today. So every time I see another story about Ryan Walters wanting to publish something or to change something or to bend the rules to make Oklahoma have to live under his interpretation of the book, part of me wants to believe in it, and part of me wants to see Jesus come back and have a long talk with Ryan Walters.